Saturday, March 19th, Patriotic Wrestling Federation goes extreme as the Hardy Boys invade Clover, South Carolina at Clover High School for a fundraiser benefiting the robotics team. Do not miss your chance to see the Hardys in the ring on the Hardy Boys reunion tour as they face Master and Machine. Don't miss your chance to take part in the meet and greet with both Matt and Jeff. Several packages are available at pwflive.com. Get your photo and autograph with the Hardys. Doors for the meet and greet open at 5 p.m. Bell time is at 7:30 p.m. You'll also have the chance to meet legendary professional wrestlers such as Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Arn Anderson, AEW superstar Brock Anderson, Demolition Axe, and many others. This will be the biggest night of family-friendly pro wrestling brought to you as only PWF can deliver. See all your favorite PWF stars in action. In the main event, the Hardys take on the duo of Master and Machine. Brock Anderson with Arn Anderson versus Chase Emery. George South and AWOL versus Antonio Morgan and the Moonshine Express. PWF Heavyweight Champion Mike Mahan versus Austin Jordan. PWF Tag Team Champion Soul Patrol versus Derek Driver and Myron Moore. All Worm No Soul versus Lucky Ali and Montana Black. A four-way match to decide the number one contender for the Patriotic title featuring AJ Frost, Stuart Snodgrass, Jake Jacobs, and Dalton Dallas. Be there Saturday, March 19th in Clover, South Carolina for PWF as we present the Hardy Boys Reunion Tour.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios in the wrestling capital of the South, it's another terrific episode of The Binge Buster Show. Please welcome your host, Tony Binge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Binge Buster Show. Man, I'm excited. 2 podcasts in 1 week. Man, and I'm under the weather, too. I guess you can hear my voice. But before I get started, I want to bring on my co-host, cohort, and co-conspirator. I'm talking about Mr. Rock and Roll Chris Playboy Plano. Chris, what is going on?
Oh, Tony, so great to be back. Yes, just 48 hours later, another podcast we're recording, and excited about tonight's show. I think we're going to, take it around the squared circle here and talk a little bit about everything because there's a lot going on in pro wrestling and looking forward to it.
Yeah, right now wrestling is wide open, and I guess, the biggest story, as you heard there at the top of our program, the Hardy Boy reunion, and what better place can it happen at right here in the Carolinas, just a few miles below Charlotte in Clover, South Carolina. That's going to be this Saturday night. The PWF, up and coming. Well, I don't want to call them up and coming because they've already came and they're going strong, man. They're bringing some of the biggest stars in wrestling. I know a few months ago I worked for them and got to work my childhood heroes, the Rock and Roll Express, and man, that was a great turnout. And this right here is going to be an even bigger turnout, as we're going to have some of the biggest stars in pro wrestling is going to be there. The Hardy Boys, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the Enforcer Arn Anderson, and Demolition Axe. Chris, I'm excited. I can't wait to be there.
Man, Tony, Clover High School is going to be on fire this Saturday. I mean, the Hardy Boys were just on tonight with All Elite Wrestling on national television, and they're in San Antonio, Texas tonight, and 72 hours from now, they're going to be in Clover, South Carolina, just southwest of Charlotte. And, boy, what a loaded show from top to bottom between legends being there, the Hardys, and the superstars of the PWF. Man, it is going to be a great night of entertainment and real special treat for Clover. Just the timing of this with them, having this show and, the Hardys just hitting national television once again. Jeff getting out of his WWE no compete clause. I mean, it's like the perfect storm, coming to Clover.
Yeah, and Clover is one of those old Mid-Atlantic towns, and I anticipate a sold-out crowd. So if you are planning on coming, I would suggest going on pwflive.com and get your tickets now, because it's definitely going to sell out. I really believe that with all my heart. And if you need the address, for the high school, it's 1625 Highway 55 East in Clover, South Carolina. And Chris, Clover's not that far from my from where I was born, Gastonia, North Carolina, and I'm excited to be part of this show.
Man.
I'm going to be driving down early, and we'll stop at my favorite restaurant, which is named Tony's, right there in Gastonia on Franklin Boulevard. I'm giving all these people these free plugs this week, but I'm going to be there. I'm going to get me a milkshake and a fried bologna sandwich, and I'm going to head down to Clover, and I'm going to sell a ton of gimmicks. And I don't know who I'm going to be facing, but I'm coming with all my gimmicks, and I'm ready. I'm ready to do the best I can and have a great time. And of course, I can't wait to sit down and bend the ear of Arn Anderson and Ricky Steamboat. And incidentally, Chris, I was going through some of my photo albums, and I have got a very candid backstage photograph, probably from like '83, of Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood getting into I'm not sure, probably Jay Youngblood's, but his 280ZX, and I cannot wait to show that picture to Ricky and see what he remembers about it.
Boy, talk about you're gonna give him a flashback, I think, this weekend, Tony, on Saturday, and maybe even hear a classic story or two about it or what he can remember. But boy, talk about turning the clock back to the NWA and WCW days. Steamboat, Arn's there. I mean, you never know what could happen there. I mean, at all. They got the Hardys on the show. I mean, you got Bill Eadie, the Masked Superstar. It's wide open, man. It's going to be a great night of entertainment. Great ticket price. And man, I hear you can take your pictures with the Hardys, get autographs. I mean, you're not going to get that at a WWE or AEW show. I mean, you're just not going to get that kind of access and up close to them. So, hey, if you're in the Clover surrounding area, you want a picture of Matt and Jeff or one of these superstars, and I know Terrific Tony, I know you're always available for a picture or two or autograph. You got to go down to Clover this Saturday, because who knows when wrestling will be back there at the high school gym.
Right, and one of the things, since this is a old Mid-Atlantic town, I am bringing my Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship belt, and so the fans that show up there can come over to my table, my souvenir table, and just for $5 they can get their picture taken with a real legit Mid-Atlantic Championship belt. And then I'm also going to be bringing, Chris, I believe I'm going to bring my Reggie Parks big gold belt. So the fans can take pictures with that as well. So, and who knows, maybe I can work a deal with Steamboat, and he can borrow my big gold belt, and people can take their picture with Steamboat. I know he comes with his Intercontinental title, but how awesome would it be for him to have the big gold?
I mean, that's it right there. I mean, that is it. I mean, you've got the Mid-Atlantic Championship belt, and I'm sure Arn and Ricky might be having their eyeballs over towards your table, and with the big gold belt as well. I mean, just all the stories with the matches with Flair, and we could sit there all night and talk about it.
Oh yeah.
And bring back memories that'll tingle up your spine and back down a couple more times. So I mean, going to be a great night. And like I said, just the perfect storm of how this show came together, how it was promoted, the booking of Matt and Jeff Hardy, the timing of this. I mean, it's really going to pay off this Saturday in Clover for everyone, because who knows how many independent dates Matt and Jeff are going to do. They are going to do some on this tour, but I mean, they're definitely not going to every single town, on the map here at the same time.
Right. And that's what's crazy about the whole thing is, a lot of people are, sitting there going, oh, I'm going to go and I'm going to, go and meet some of these guys. Well, you better get there early if that's what you intend to do, because once bell time starts, that place is going to be wide open. I'm talking big time wide open. So you definitely want to get out there early and meet and greet with the with all the stars of the PWF, and like I said, I'll be there myself, and it's going to be a good time. And right now, what I want to do, as we were talking about Ricky Steamboat, I have a video right now, or recording that he sent in, talking about coming to Clover. Let's go check that out right now.
Hi wrestling fans, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat here, and this Saturday at the Clover High School, Patriotic Wrestling Federation's having a big show. Join me and my buddies, Arn Anderson, Demolition Axe, and the Hardy Boys. The meet and greet's going to start at 5 p.m. and you can get your tickets at pwflive.com. That's this Saturday, the 19th. Starts at 5 p.m. Come and see the Dragon.
Man, Chris, I'm telling you, if I wasn't on the show, I'd be buying a ticket for this.
Tony, I mean, hey, you got. It's going to be great. It is going to be great this week at Clover. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, WWF, WCW, NWA superstar Arn Anderson with the Four Horsemen, Acts of Demolition. I mean, the Hardy Boys, Matt and Jeff Hardy. I mean, world tag team champions over and over. They are going to be Hall of Famers, no doubt. I mean, the Hardy Boys, when you talk about, and Tony, we could sit here and talk about the top tag teams in the history of professional wrestling. And, Matt and Jeff came at an era in the late 90s into the 2000s and brought a dimension to tag team wrestling that many never saw prior to that. And, when you want to talk top 5, top 10 tag teams of all time, I can confidently say that they're definitely in the conversation.
Oh, for sure. And nobody knows the Hardy Boys better, Chris, than you, because when back in the day when you were running New Dimension Wrestling, the Hardy Boys were a mainstay for you, correct?
Oh my God, the Matt and Jeff, yeah, they were, they were wrestling, with New Dimension. I actually discovered them when I went to Manio, North Carolina, out in the Outer Banks for a big fundraiser show at the Manio High School, and I want to say that was in 1997, early 97, and then when I saw them, they were booked. After that, I was sold. Actually, Ricky Morton was on that show from the Rock and Roll Express, and he told me, if you don't book those guys, you're the craziest person in the world. And all of a sudden, Matt and Jeff started working for me, and both singles, tag, and hey, they were, and then in 1999 they made it, to the WWF back then, and they were off and running.
And it seems like they haven't stopped since. I mean, they're always, and what's so cool about them is how they're always reinventing themselves and staying fresh, and it's pretty cool. And I think it's even cooler that some of the younger kids of today, who may not have got to go see the Hardys perform back in the 90s, now they get to do that. So it's kind of like the young generation that never got to see Motley Crue. Now they're going to get to see Motley Crue. So now this young generation that never got to see the Hardys live, now is their chance, and they're doing this reunion tour all over the place. So if they're anywhere close to where you're at, I highly suggest buying a ticket, because I did read online that Jeff Hardy said that this would be the last run as the Hardy Boys tag team. So if you want to be able to see that and see all the magic that they can pull out, definitely get your tickets for this Saturday, March the 19th, Clover, South Carolina. The PWF, Patriotic Wrestling Federation, is going to be taking Clover by storm, and it's going to be on fire. So I cannot wait to get there. And of course, like I said earlier in the podcast, the PWF are doing some big things. So if you aren't following them on their Facebook page, make sure you go do that. and come out and support independent wrestling, because right now, I mean, it's independent wrestling's on fire, and you definitely need to check it out. So it's gonna be good, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely, Tony. I know you're going to be ready. Whoever your opponent's going to be, I know you're fired up, and you know, it's going to be great. And I mean, it's going to be probably one of the best independent wrestling shows. You know, and there's been many, but this one is just extra special with the timing of the Hardy Boys, man. There's just nothing better.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And Chris, hopefully, maybe I could sit down and talk with Arn and the Hardys and Ricky Steamboat and get them to do a little plug for the BengeBuster show. So I'll definitely check, look into that at the show. Hopefully, you'll be able to join me, Chris. But if not, I'm going to be there with
we're going to try. We'll see how the rest of the week plays out. I'm trying to shake off a cold.
You and me both, man. It's like
allergy season has sprouted up here in the Carolinas.
Yeah. The other day, when we done the Scott Hall tribute podcast, I was starting to feel a little under the weather then, and then the next day, man, I woke up and I couldn't hardly breathe, and I was like, man, I got to get to the doctor. So I put it off, and then but today I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I gotta go. I got a podcast to do, and I've got a wrestling match to do this weekend, so I've got to get over. So I went to the doctor, and turns out it's just my allergies. Every time this time of year, Chris, when the leaves are starting to bloom, I get this, man. I get this sneezing, and nasal thing, and then I get over it, and then I'm good. And then in the fall, when the leaves start to die, it's like starting all over again. So about twice a year, I get like this. So, but I'm going to be good. I'm taking my medication, as Hogan says. I'm taking my vitamins, and I'm saying my prayers. So I'm hoping to, like I said, I should be great come Saturday and ready to rock out there in Clover. Now, just want to kind of change the subject just a little bit. I know one of the things that we haven't done on the podcast here recently was the Classic Flashback. So this week we're going to do the Classic Flashback, and it's the anniversary. Incidentally, yesterday on March the 15th was the anniversary of the self-titled album Motley Crue. It was released on March the 15th, 1994. Chris, the first album of Motley Crue after Vince left. So we are going to talk about this album coming up right after this.
This week's Classic Flashback.
Like I said, fans, this week's Classic Flashback is the Motley Crue self-titled album with new lead singer John Corabi. The album was the sixth studio album by Motley Crue. It was released on March the 15th, 1994. It was the band's only album released with singer John Corabi, and was the first album of new material released by the band since 1989, Dr. Feelgood, which we all know Dr. Feelgood was their most successful album to date. But Chris, this was kind of a different sound of Motley Crue. It was a little heavier, and it had some great songs. My favorite off that album was Hooligan's Holiday, and incidentally, in '94, I was really starting to take off wrestling, and that was my theme song for a few months. But take us back to this album, Chris. What were some of your thoughts when this album came out?
I mean, the album came out at an interesting time, just where rock and roll music was in 1994 and what people were listening to, at that time. Just before this album came out, Tony, I saw, Vince Neil solo when he was opening up for Van Halen on the Right Here, Right Now tour.
Yeah.
So Vince was not with Motley Crue, and Vince was singing all the Crue hits. I mean, that's what he was doing back then, and actually was doing fairly well with it. I mean, really kind of, living off of that Dr. Feelgood album and obviously the prior albums that, they mustered so many hits off of. And then so this album to me, is somewhat for me. I do remember, I think, and I was in college then at that time, but yeah, I do remember, John Corabi came in, to replace Vince Neil. As I look at the list, I mean, I do know, Hooligan's Holiday. Yes, I remember that one. I kind of remember Poison Apples a little bit, from that album. But nothing like really stuck with me. I think that this is a Motley Crue song.
Right.
This is a Motley Crue. Just Dr. Feelgood was so big of an album.
Yeah.
Like, how do you top that?
Right.
I mean,
well, during this time, they in '89 they put out Dr. Feelgood,
right,
and then in '91, or '92, I can't remember the date now. '91, they put out Decade of Decadence.
Right.
It was like their first greatest hits, and threw a couple live stuff on there for the fans. But and then of course they had all the greatest hits, and then they had a new song called Primal Scream, which is one of my favorite Motley Crue songs. A lot of people may not know this. I played drums, and that's like one of my favorite songs to play the drums by. But anyway,
that they still keep that song in the set list.
Yes,
well.
Yes, they sure do. And talking about the set list, I know we're kind of going all over the place here, but I saw Nikki Sixx post the other day on Instagram saying that he and Tommy had been hanging out, and for this next tour, the stadium tour, they're going to go deep into the cuts and play some stuff that they haven't played in decades, and some stuff they've never played before. So I'm really excited to see what the set list is going to be for the stadium tour. But getting back,
that's interesting. That's interesting. A quote like that comes out. That they're going to go deep in the cuts, because are they still alternating with Def Leppard every other night? Is that still the agreement? Or
that's still the agreement. They're going to alternate, and I believe in Charlotte is Motley Crue is headlining, I believe. But so I'm excited about that. But getting back to this album, Chris, here's my thought on this album. A lot of people didn't really dig this album. I feel that had they called themselves anything other than Motley Crue, this album would have done more sales. But it was, it's kind of like you go back and you see Van Halen. They had, David Lee Roth for years. He left. They brought in Sammy Hagar. Well, Sammy and David Lee Roth have like the same tone of their voice, kind of high pitched kind of thing. Where Motley Crue had Vince Neil, who had that same type of voice, the real high-pitched scream-type voice, and then they replace him with this grunge guy. It almost made them, it really did, it made them a grunge band. They went from heavy metal or hard rock to grunge, and even on Wikipedia, they categorized Motley Crue on this album as hard rock, alternative metal, and grunge. So, that being said, I believe that's why this album wasn't more successful than it was. And on the top of that, Motley Crue had diehard fans.
Right.
So with this big blow up between Nikki and Vince, or Vince and Nikki, or I guess it really depends on who you're talking to. But when they done the split, they split, but then each of them would go on MTV and talk trash about the other, which made their fans have to try to choose between one or the other. And I think that also made a lot of diehard Crue fans, kind of irritated when they put this album on.
Yeah, I mean, again, Tony, it was an interesting time with music. You talk about the grunge, and we know about what happened in the early to mid '90s. We go back and we've talked about Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder and all this stuff, and how things were changing, and maybe they were trying to, live off that a little bit. And, whatever it is, they took a shot at it. And maybe just the fans just weren't buying this, and maybe they really weren't sold as John Corabi being the long-term fix as the lead singer for Motley Crue either. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
It was like, kind of like, what's going on here? you got a lot going on. And Vince doing the solo stuff and promoting Motley, from his end. And, it was kind of like, when David Lee Roth left Van Halen, it was like Sammy Hagar was a natural transition, and they put out an album and they had instant hits.
Yeah.
Albeit, yes. Was it more commercialized? Absolutely. But that's who Van Halen was at that time.
Right.
And where Motley Crue and I'm not going to say Motley Crue didn't get MTV time. They got their fair share. I would say Van Halen got more overall. But with that said, I just don't know if the fans were buying it. Just overall, like, really, what are they trying to do here?
Right. Exactly. I agree with you 100% on that, because it was like it was a different type of music. It was a little heavier. But it wasn't that poppy kind of, rock music that Motley Crue was so accustomed to. It wasn't like Same Old Situation and Girls, Girls, Girls and Shout the Devil. It was completely different. And, they're talking about Hooligan's Holiday. And as you hear the lyrics, you, at some point you're left scratching your head going, what are they talking about?
Right.
But he's really just talking about riding his Harley. That's part of what the song was about. Right. And then they had another song on there that was actually a video on MTV called Misunderstood, and it was about suicide and and depression. And again, this album was kind of dark, grungy, and it just wasn't. It just wasn't that album that Motley Crue fans were accustomed to having, and I think that they were like trying to be like Shout the Devil, but a more up to date
sure
look. Even Nikki and Tommy cut their hair kind of short during this time, so they were reinventing themselves, but. Like I said, I believe, and I'll say this for as long as I live, and as long as I'm a Motley Crue fan, if they had done this album and called themselves anything but Motley Crue, this album would have definitely been more successful.
Absolutely. It definitely had a chance, and I just think, again, the fans weren't accepting, like, this is the new Motley Crue, they just had so much to try to overcome, even from just the level of the hits that they made in the past, and they were climbing a mountain, ultimately. And, and then ultimately Vince Neil did obviously get back with the band. But it was a lot. It was a lot for fans to accept, to absorb, either like it or don't like it or move on. And, that's kind of where they were. And, the Motley crowd was getting a little older as well. And, the Motley crowd of back then is really old now. So it's, there's just a lot of things going on, at that time, just with music overall. So it was just an interesting time, for, music and especially where rock and roll and grunge and metal, where all that was kind of intersecting and bands trying to survive.
Yeah. And incidentally, I'm kind of fast forwarding a little bit, but 3 years later, Vince Neil will join the band again, and they'll have another studio album called Generation Swine. And during this time is when the lawyers and everyone got together and said, if Motley Crue is going to survive, they've got to have the original members back together. And I know I remember watching I believe it was the MTV Music Awards, and they came out and had off this album and had redone Shout the Devil and made it a little more up to date. I was like, oh my God, this Shout the Devil sounds really cool. I like the way it sounds. And then as I'm reading about this, this is something that I didn't know. And but on Generation Swine, John Corabi claims that he had written 80% of the material for that album, but he was only gave credit for two songs, which was
Right.
I'm sorry, 3 songs: Generation Swine, Flush, and Let Us Pray. On July 7th, 1997, he filed a $4 million lawsuit against Motley Crue, alleging that there was a breach of his contract, fraud, and slander. Karabi's claim was that he had not received royalties or credit for his work and contributions while he was in the band. I don't know if he won that suit. I don't see anything about that, but I would have to think he probably didn't, because it's like 3 guys against 1. I mean, who's gonna, no case in court's gonna stand up and you got 3 against 1. So, great. Like I said, Motley Crue album, it was okay. Had it been called something else, it would have been great. And even the tour, Chris, I don't think that the tour did very well. Judging from the book The Dirt and the movie The Dirt, it pretty much showed that a lot of fans were showing up and asking, saying they wanted Vince, and it just wasn't the Motley Crue that everybody had grew up on for the last 11 years. So it was inevitable if Motley Crue was going to survive, they had to bring back Vince Neil.
People want to see the original members of the band, especially if they're living, and work out. That's what they know. That's what they remember. It's tough for bands to continue, if it's not the original members and you're watching. I mean, there are some bands today that are touring. It's like a semi-tribute band we're watching.
Right. Yeah.
Versus there might only be 1 or 2 original members and everyone else is, not. So it's tough. I mean, but back then it's a different era. We're going back, 27 years ago.
Yeah.
These guys should have been together. Whatever happened, but, and again, people want to see the original band and that's just the way it is. I know that's it for me, but now in this day and age and where we are in 2022, you got to be flexible, based on the age of some of these bands that have played. Some that we talk about, in the, mid-late 70s, early 70s into the early 80s and beyond. I mean, those guys are getting up there in age and, unfortunately some aren't around anymore due to natural causes or other means, or they just, have moved on and retired. So you got to kind of accept it for what it is. Right.
Yeah. And that's the real thing. That a lot of people don't understand is the fact that, you got to, you definitely got to get in there and put everything into that music. And when you change it up like that, it's definitely hard, to do that whenever, you're putting in a whole new group,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, and then you got to hope the general public accepts it at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a lot, it's a lot. And, and we're also going at a time that this was, pre-internet, pre-cell phones, and, word didn't spread as fast as it does today.
Right.
You still had to go read the magazines or tune into MTV or, see what's going on online, not even online. I mean, it was just a different era.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, that's what's crazy is the fact that, it's just a big change when they do that. And, unfortunately, that's just the way it ran,
right.
But, now we got Vince back in the band, Tommy's back in the band, and we got the original Motley Crue getting ready to go on tour for this stadium tour with Def Leppard, Poison, and Joan Jett. And I'm excited. I can't wait to get there, tailgate with you there in Charlotte.
Oh, and, man, it'll be
it's going to be a fun time.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to it. And there's a lot of bands hitting the road this summer in 2022 and beyond, where they're playing stadiums, they're playing amphitheaters, indoor, a little bit of everything. It's a lot of bands hitting the road, and we got to get people back out to some normalcy as well, and hopefully out and about. And we'll take it 1 month at a time and see how it all plays out.
Yep, it's going to be great. Well, fans, I think that's going to wrap us up this week. We had another show planned, and we're going to wait until next week when Jeff joins us back, and he's got some great history of my wrestling career that he wants to share on the show. So hopefully Jeff will be back with us next week, and we'll be able to pick up where we left off at. Again, reminder to all the listeners at home, PWF is coming to Clover, South Carolina this Saturday. Bell time 7:30 at the Clover High School. Make sure make plans to be there and check out that fantastic show. And if you come see me, and maybe Chris is there, and we'll talk to you about the podcast. And who knows, Chris, we might end up doing a live podcast right there. From the right there live from the PWF dressing room. Who knows? But
you never know.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. It's an exciting weekend for Charlotte. I know we haven't talked about it in this particular podcast yet, but WWE with SmackDown is in town this Friday night as well in Charlotte at the Spectrum Center. So talk about 2 nights of wrestling. Go check out WWE in Charlotte at Spectrum Center with SmackDown live on national television on Fox Friday. And then you get close in person to Clover on Saturday. If you're a wrestling fan, I'd be at both of them.
It's a double shot right there, Chris.
It's a double header. It's a double header this weekend, and Matt and Jeff and their story career in the WWE. It's like kind of almost perfect that they're in town the night before, even though they're not with them anymore.
Yes,
just from all the success they had, especially in the tag team ranks in the WWE, but also. Even for Jeff on the singles level as well, fared fairly well in the WWE throughout his career.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. So, well, fans, that's going to wrap us up this week for Tony, for me and Chris. We look forward to seeing you, as Bill Apter would say, we'll see you at the matches Saturday night in Clover, South Carolina.
Goes extreme as the Hardy Boys invade Clover, South Carolina at Clover High School for a fundraiser benefiting the robotics team. Do not miss your chance to see the Hardys in the ring on the Hardy Boys reunion tour as they face Master and Machine. Don't miss your chance to take part in the meet and greet with both Matt and Jeff. Several packages are available at pwflive.com. Get your photo and autograph with the Hardys. Doors for the meet and greet open at 5 p.m. Bell time is at 7:30 p.m. You'll also have the chance to meet legendary professional wrestlers such as Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Arn Anderson, AEW superstar Brock Anderson, Demolition Axe, and many others. This will be the biggest night of family-friendly pro wrestling brought to you as only PWF can deliver. See all your favorite PWF stars in action. In the main event, the Hardys take on the duo of Master and Machine. Brock Anderson with Arn Anderson versus Chase Emery. George South and AWOL versus Antonio Morgan and the Moonshine Express. PWF Heavyweight Champion Mike Mahan versus Austin Jordan. PWF Tag Team Champion Soul Patrol versus Derek Driver and Myrick Moore. All Worm No Soul versus Lucky Ali and Montana Black. A 4-way match to decide the #1 contender for the Patriotic title, featuring AJ Frost, Stuart Snodgrass, Jake Jacobs, and Dalton Dallas. Be there Saturday, March 19th in Clover, South Carolina for PWF as we present the Hardy Boys Reunion Tour.
Thank you for listening to the BingeBuster Show. Make sure you like us on Facebook and download us on your favorite podcast platform.